Yeah, all right. So a little bit different camera angles today, but we got to talk today about the X Arcade. So this is not, we're going to be talking about this X Arcade. We're going to be talking about the next X Arcade. We're going to be talking about the Arcade 2TV-XR Max. I'm going to tell you a little bit about what my experiences were with the original XR. There's one thing right there already. So this touchpad is very sensitive, and anything you do to touch that, you're going to affect something. So we're going to talk a little bit about this versus what the new one's going to be. They just announced this thing like this week, and first of all, it's completely black. It's completely chromed out. They've added a whole bunch of features to it, but this is the original Arcade 2TV-XR, and I upgraded it with the haptics kit. And we're going to talk about all the things that I had problems with and that they've seemingly improved on. So I'm really curious to see how this goes. As you can see, this is primarily a VR station for me. This is a MetaQuest 3, so this is what I play it on. This is a pinball channel, so I'm going to specifically be talking about the pinball aspects of it. But this controller is so much more than just a pinball controller. It can definitely be used for arcade, two-player arcade system as well. So we'll put the MetaQuest 3 over there. This is Lucas the Spider. He has nothing to do with it. Contrary to popular belief, this is not collecting dust in the background of my channel, as it was talked about on my Discord. I actually do play this quite a bit. This here is the shelf, which you guys might not be familiar of because of the way it's displayed here. This actually came off the older version. So, or not the older version, but the pieces from the original XR. This piece here used to be right here, and with the haptics kit came with the speakers and the control panels and different things. This part is able to come off. What I did is I ordered, or I believe these were sent to me. I've got these 3D printed pieces. And I guess I won't take them off just because they're press fit in there, and if I take them off, they're going to be looser. But basically, that creates a shelf, if you will, to be able to put this back on there. And originally, I thought this was nice. I could put these back in there and kind of keep them like that. So it's just another thing that you could do with your system. When you're actually playing pinball, though, you had to put them in the spots here, otherwise your table would be too elevated and you have to adjust the height and things like that. But as a whole, this is the naming. Let's talk about the naming. The X Arcade 2TV-XR, that's a lot. And then they add Max to the newer version, which is completely blacked out. Some of the prototypes that originally some of the influencers had gotten before, this part was black. So I think maybe Papa Brad and maybe Cornercade, some of the others, maybe had the black top, or maybe it was Michael B. I don't know who had it. But it looked really cool, and I think a lot of people like that black carbon fiber look. And funny thing is, the new version actually has that. So the whole version is now a black instead of a white. The white will actually show cat hair and things like that. I think the black will actually be a nice look to it. It does have chrome edges around the new buttons, which I think will be pretty cool. Some of the additions that we got with the haptics kit before is we got the speakers, we got all these different dials for different sound issues. We've got these 3D prints that allowed you to be able to lay your hand on the table in such a way that you wouldn't hit buttons and things like that. Works really well on this side. But this side was still not the best because you had these two additional buttons. They did not revise that in the new edition, but I'll be curious to see how that works out. We'll take this off just so you guys can see kind of what we're dealing with here. I am 5'8", so I'm not particularly tall, but I'm not exactly short either necessarily. But I still like this at a pretty low height, even compared to my P3. So my buttons are at about the same height as I have on my real pinball machine here, and even my At Games 4KP over there. So dealing with this. Now, what you'll see here is kind of a mess of cords. And that's some of the problems that we have with this original version, is that we had to deal with lots of different cords. So this is the dongle. I don't know if you guys seen that from before. My first dongle that I had got did not work. I could not get it to work out, and I tried to doing firmware updates to it and the whole bit. I could never get it to work. They sent me a new one. This one worked day one out of the box, no issues. So I don't know if that was just something in their manufacturing process or what, but this one worked absolutely perfectly from day one. The other things that I dealt with. So the power cord. So the power cord on this thing, in this case, was a pretty big concern. So this is the power brick that I have, that they actually had to send me another one. The original one actually had a power switch or a flip switch on the actual cord. This one was, the original one was causing all kinds of sound issues on my machine. And I was trying to deal with some of the noise interruptions and things like that. They went through a couple different iterations. They told me to get a ground loop interceptor or interrupter or something like that. It was a $10 thing that I bought off of Amazon, plugged it in. It didn't work either. It did not take out enough of the sound. So they ended up sending me a new power brick, and that took care of the issue. Now, this is the cord that you have to do to plug into your MetaQuest 3. So you got the MetaQuest 3, and you plug this into the side of your unit. In this case, it's on the right-hand side. And you hear that popping? That's typical speaker pop that you would hear, even if you're going to plug in like a guitar or stuff like that. Once it's plugged in, you have no problems. But originally, when I dealt with this, if this was plugged in, and you can even hear it now a little bit. Now, my audio is completely turned up, so I want full audio. You still hear? I don't know if you can hear that from the mic. A little bit of audio interference. So you always deal with that if this is plugged in. You have to unplug this to mitigate that completely. And so you're plugging in and unplugging, plugging in, plugging, dealing with that the whole time. This had to hang across the table or go underneath. A lot of times is what I did. So went underneath like this and then plugged into the headset from below like that. And then I'm not affected with the flipper buttons either way. So the newer one apparently has all kinds of different connectability issues or connectability solutions to this original use case. Not only do they have the accelerometer, the solenoids, but they also have ones for RGBs. They have different mode selectors, so it looks like you can do Bluetooth. You can do the 2.4 gigabyte dongle, which is what we had on here. And then, of course, you can do the cable as well. So one cable for everything. So it would be audio, connectability, the whole bit. Whereas you really couldn't do that on this one. You connected through Bluetooth, and then you needed to connect to audio for just the audio. That's the only thing you got with the one cable. So that stuff is done away with. On this original one, so I didn't have spinners. But if you had spinners, the original tank stick or the Arcade 2TV had these holes where you ended up pulling these out and you would put your spinners there. The new one actually has spinners in this location, here and here. So that'll be interesting to get those back. Also, when you put your headset controllers in, there's actually a USB port on each side of here. So that could be used for a number of things. So I'm curious about that. They've locked out the control panel. This was really easy to mess up, and if you touched it during gameplay or stuff like that, you would get all the changes, and you'd hear that audio tone and stuff like that that would get changed up. Power in the back now. I think this is still going to be a problem because the pedal still height is still quite high. I mean, you want to be able to accommodate people that are 6'6" and things like that. So this is going to be an issue. I wish that these had some type of adjustment to them to where you could just do away with that completely. And then the elephant in the room here was originally we had to install the haptics kit. We had to do it ourselves. So the newer version, this Max version, will not have that. I love the plunger. It works nice. The accelerometer, so left and right nudges are okay. I had no problem with those, but the forward nudges, because this is a, it's not a particularly heavy thing, you had to really give it a good, you had to really rock it to get a forward nudge on the original system. And so almost every time I would just do a forward bump on the joystick on the left-hand side to do the forward nudge. I found that to be far more effective and more consistent. So we'll see if the new one can do that. I'm really curious to see what it can do. But originally, yeah, you give this thing a shove and it would, you get that double rock back, and then you get 2 nudges instead of 1. And that's a real problem when you're trying to play competitive pinball. The side nudges were good. Because you give it a little jolt like that and it would pick up on that and you'd have no problem. So that was just something to think about. You'll notice on the side of this thing, I only have 1 flipper button. 1 flipper button, so there's no nudge button, if you will. You would have to, if you wanted to do a nudge, you had to use the joystick or the accelerometer. You had that option before. With the new one, the Max version, they actually have 3 buttons now, and it looks like they're going to be completely mappable. So everything with these X arcades have been completely mappable from the get-go. So you're going to essentially have a flipper button, a nudge button if you want it, and maybe a MagnaSave button or something like that. I'd be curious to see what that is. But you're going to have, it looks like they got one kind of here. They're kind of spaced in a really interesting way. They got kind of one here, and kind of one way up here. So on my P3, there's 2 and then 1 directly below those original 2, and so that's completely different than what I'll be dealing with there. But functionally, this thing worked really, really well. It's a fantastic way to play VR pinball, far better than just playing on the headset with the sticks or with the controllers. You'll notice that if you played with the original one, you always had that push-pull. And like you could push quite a bit before it would actually take the flip, even on the MetaQuest. So if you played it just with that, so with this, the flipper buttons were far better than they were before. But yeah, the nice thing is you're gonna get the, like, if they improve on the things like the audio issues and the connectability, we have to go into 3 different modes. To be able to do different types of pinball, whether it be Pinball FX, or if it's Star Wars Pinball, or if you're doing Star Wars Pinball Classic VR, things like that. So you had to switch between different modes. Just having to connect to this thing all the time with a cable for audio was kind of an issue. A lot of people didn't like that. A lot of times I don't choose to connect the cable and not even use the haptics because I really like the audio and the surround sound in the headset. And so if this can iterate that and do that in a nicer way, I'm all for that. I will be curious to see some of the other improvements as well. They've got some additional shaker motors and different things going on. I had to do a deep dive on this thing. I went through that website for X Arcade and went all the way through. It says there's 16 things that they've improved on the iterations from this original version, which we were very much beta testers on. Now, I did not buy this outright. I did not get it as a review unit. I bought this secondhand, so I didn't get the VR Ranger add-on game that came with it. I bought Pinball FX myself and things like that. So I will be curious to see what it looks like. Hoping to get one, maybe for a review unit. We'll see. But we'll see. I'm really curious to see what it was. I really like the black and chrome. Lots of features that have been fixed on it. And who knows, man. We will see. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching. You only need 1 ball for greatness, even in VR. And we'll see you next time, guys. Bye.